Old things, new things, and old things becoming new this week on Take's Take.
Thanks so much for tuning in for another episode of Photography Radio. My name is Tomasz and today you are listening to Take's Take with Take Kayo, where he covers what's new and interesting in the world of photography, including digital, analog, mobile, and everything in between. Enjoy.
Can you imagine your life without photography? No? Then you will love this show. And it doesn't matter if you're a DSLR, a mirrorless, or a mobile phone shooter. We're here to help your photography grow. This is Photography Radio.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Take's Take, which is my take on photography news this week. So let's begin now. In analog news this week, what was old is new. Now, Ektachrome has been around for decades, and Kodak decided to release the E100 in 35mm just recently, but now it's being available in both 120 and 4x5, and hopefully it'll come out in 8x10 sometime soon. But this is exciting news for those of us who enjoy shooting slide as well as shooting analog, and many who are shooting in analog wants a competitive advantage in terms of image quality over digital, and shooting 120 and 4x5 definitely gets you that. But of course, this does come at a price. The 5-pack of 120 right now is being listed at B&H for $70 US, and a 10-sheet pack of 4x5 is $60 US, with the regular 35mm at $13 a roll. This is very expensive, but if you actually look back at what we used to pay for professional slide film, even back in the 90s, it was still reasonably expensive. And you know what? For that price, you get something quite unique and different, and really in the case of 4x5, not currently available for digital photography. Another piece of news in analog is it is the 60th anniversary of the Nikon F. And so the first Nikon F was released in 1959, and the now legendary F2 really became a staple of photojournalism as well as war photography. And at that time, it was really the Leica M that was the king of photojournalistic tools for photography. But for the need of longer focal length, specifically 135mm, shooting Leica M was not really that great because you look into that rangefinder patch. So when the Nikon F2 came out, it was often the choice for photojournalists. Kind of funny news is that the F6 is still available new in many camera stores, including B&H, and the F6 clearly is a derivative of the original F series of cameras, and so you can still buy a Nikon F film camera new. Now, Nikon did announce the release of the D6, which will be the replacement of the D5, which again is part of that heritage of the Nikon F because it still uses the F mount on these digital DSLRs. But the D6 is coming out at a time where DSLRs aren't doing so well. So the future of the Nikon F, which includes the F mount, well, it looks like perhaps in terms of bodies that the film F camera might outlast the digital version. Let's move on to lenses, and staying on the theme of what is old is new. The Leica M mount is very old. It's been around since the early 50s, and Leica keeps on adding new lenses to this mount. And so they've just announced the new Summilux 90mm f1.5 spherical, and they call it the new benchmark in portrait photography. It has two spherical elements, including floating lens elements for improved sharpness throughout the focal range. It has an 11-blade aperture diaphragm, which allows for a beautifully smooth bokeh while stopping down. It has a built-in lens hood, and it is a 67mm filter thread. And this is all possible because of the M mount. It is a rangefinder lens, so the back focus distance is quite short. This lens is not for everyone. It's $12,995 US, and it is similar in price to the recently released 75mm Noctilux f1.25, and it shares similar specs and features. So these two new lenses from Leica, if you can afford it, it's there for you to buy. Sigma has kind of good as well as bad news. They just added a second lens to their art lens series, the 24 to 70 f2.8 art lens, and they took pre-orders for this lens, but Sigma just recently announced that they were flooded with pre-orders. It exceeded their expectations, and they said to be prepared for delays. This $1,100 US lens isn't cheap, but compared to the OEM equivalent on the Sony E mount as well as the Panasonic's L mount, it's actually half price. So this lens is scheduled to be released on December 20th, but Sigma announced that they cannot fulfill all their pre-orders. So maybe this is good news for everyone, because it being half price and being sold out, perhaps Sony and Panasonic would consider dropping their price on their lenses. Venus Optics announces 3 new lenses, new mounts actually, for both Canon RF and Nikon Z. So these Canon and Nikon are old companies, have been around for a long time, and they've really focused on SLR lenses and DSLR lenses, but now they've moved on to their new mount, which is Canon's RF, as well as Nikon Z mount. And so Venus Optics are going to come out with 3 lenses that they already have. Their 12mm f2.8 0D, their 25mm f2.8 ultra macro 2.5 to 5 times, as well as their 100 f2.8 2 times ultra macro lenses. Now these 3 will be all available on both Canon RF and Nikon Z mount. So good news for those of you that have adopted these new mirrorless mounts for both Canon and Nikon. Minicon, they announced a brand new lens, and this is a zinger, 85mm f2.8, which doesn't sound that special, but it is a 1 to 5 times super macro lens. The Zhongyi Optics released this new super macro lens on all major mounts. At 5 times magnification, you are 10 centimeters away. And at 1 times magnification, you are at 27.2 centimeters away, so almost 30 centimeters. And this gives you extended working distance. And so if you are photographing something like insects, it allows you to shoot a little further away. But as well, if you are lighting a stills object, it gives you space, so the lens itself and you are not creating a shadow on what you are photographing. This lens has 12 elements in 8 groups, and it is a apochromatic design. So for superior image quality, at $499 for this lens, $499 US, it is a very attractive price. And at that price point, it also includes a tripod collar, because this is a big lens, and an LED ring light. When it comes to digital photography, we can do nothing without software and applications. And so let's talk about some new features coming out soon. Lightroom for iPad can now directly import into the app. Now before, it was a bit frustrating. You had to import either into Camera Roll or into the files, but now you can directly import into Lightroom, and that worked with the entire Creative Cloud network of apps that you can move between Lightroom and Photoshop from all your devices, from your iPad and your iPhone onto your MacBook or to any kind of iOS or Mac device. And this really moves towards more and more mobile processing and editing for your workflow. Great for photographers who do a lot of traveling and are using mobile or iPad devices to go through their images, make their selects, as well as delivering their images to either social media or to their clients. In odd news, but it's not that odd for someone like me, because I enjoy using Twitter. especially for sharing ideas and asking questions within various communities. But Twitter has improved their image uploads. Now, many don't think about Twitter for photography, but if you actually look at what's uploaded to Twitter versus Instagram, you're getting much higher image quality on Twitter versus Instagram. And now they've just improved the image quality by not applying any transcoding, except for when you are previewing the images. Twitter engineer Nolan O'Brien recently talked about that the JPEG encoding will now be preserved when you upload your images, but that is still within Twitter's limits of what is considered acceptable size. So on Twitter, it allows for 4096 by 4096 maximum size. So that's approximately an 8 megapixel images will upload without any transcoding, and it will start applying transcoding when you go above that. And so one trick that Nolan O'Brien mentioned is that if you use the Getsley encoding JPEGs, it retains 97% of the image quality with no chroma subsampling. And you see some of the image quality, and this is on Twitter, it is quite beautiful to see. As mentioned before about Instagram limits your images to 1080 to a maximum of 1080 wide by 1350 high. So comparing 1080 by 1350 to 4096 by 4096 is kind of a huge difference. And so perhaps Twitter is the new future for image sharing. What do you guys think? Finally, my pick for photographer of the week is Jaume Creus, originally from Barcelona, Spain. He moved to Vancouver to work as a visual effects artist for Lucasfilm. So he is quite a technical guy when it comes to work, but at night, he becomes a street photographer, and he primarily works with film, which is pretty old. And his favorite films, if you look at his Instagram feed, you can tell that he loves shooting with CineStill 800T and Lomo 800 because of his night crawling habits. His main camera is his Leica M6 with this 35 f1.4 Nocton. Although he does shoot with a variety of film cameras, I've seen him, including his very unique Nikonos 3, and he shoots with that because, as all of you know, it rains a lot here in Vancouver. Now, I asked him why he likes to shoot at night and why he likes to shoot with film, and he really said it happened by accident. He enjoys shooting film as an escape from his daily routine as a visual effects artist, and so I guess it's opposite of high tech. It is low tech or high mech or however you want to call it, but it is a break from his daily routine. And he said he shoots at night because that's really the only time he has to pursue his photography. He mentioned that he enjoys the feeling that he gets when he's alone on the empty streets, and there's a sense of calm and peace, and you can definitely see it in his photography. Now, not only does he shoot film, but he also processes and he scans all of his work. And to enjoy his photography, the best way to view it is really on his Instagram feed, and that will be at Jaume.Creus. So I'll spell that for you because it's not a common name. So at Jaume, so that's Jaume.Creus, which is Creus. And so thank you so much for listening this week on Take's Take, and we'll talk to you soon next week. Until then, happy shooting.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hit subscribe on your podcast app. It would mean a lot for us to have you as our regular listener. Head over to photographyradio.com to drop your suggestion for future editions of Photography Radio or simply to say hello. We would absolutely love to hear from you. In the meantime, have a wonderful night, and we will be back with more photography in your ears very soon.